If you're feeling overwhelmed by all of the options out there for UX bootcamps and UX courses in general, and you're wondering if they are worth the investment or if some of the free resources are going to get you where you need to go, then you're going to want to watch this video. Because here's the truth. In today's UX market, not all paths are going to lead to a career in UX design. And the wrong choice could leave you stuck without the skills and the portfolio to land the job you want. But don't worry, I'm here to help you cut through all the noise and figure out what really works. Hey y'all, I'm Ashley Janelle, UX UI designer and UX coach, and I'm also the founder of Empathive. Empathive is a UX bootcamp that helps aspiring UX designers go from beginner to experienced in just 16 weeks. Today we're going to cover a wide range of topics. We're going to talk about everything from the UX job market to how to actually ensure that you get the skills that you need to actually land the job that you want. We're also going to dive into how to understand what the right bootcamp is for you and how to be successful, how to make sure that you are successful in whatever route it is that you choose, whatever course it is that you choose. All right, you ready? Let's go ahead and get into it. But before we do, make sure you're subscribed. I don't want you to miss out on any of the videos that I have coming up. So you've done it? You subscribed? All right, now let's go ahead and get into it. So as somebody who helps people transition into the UX field, I get a ton of questions, a ton of questions. And I'm gonna put a few of them up on the screen so that you can kind of get a feel for the things that I've been asked. And this is probably, if you're watching this video, questions that you might have as well. Questions like, I've already had some experience taking a free course and maybe I have a case study, but my overall portfolio is not completed. All the way to, I've done my research on UX, I know it's something that I want to get into, but I'm just not sure what the avenue is for me. We have a lot of people who are interested in the field of UX, whether you're transitioning from inside of the creative or tech industry or whether you're outside of the creative or tech industry and you want to transition in. I get all of the questions, and that's why I'm the perfect person to talk to you today about a career not only in UX design, but what it actually takes to make that switch. So if any of these questions are questions that you have had, drop a little light bulb emoji into the comments. I love to engage with you guys, and I really just want to make sure that this is an interactive experience. This is a YouTube video, but I'm super active in the comments. I will answer all the questions you guys have. And yeah, if any of these questions have ever crossed your mind at one time or another, go ahead and drop that light bulb emoji. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ashley Janelle. I am a UX UI designer, and I have been for the last probably almost 10 years. Before that, I was a graphic designer, a presentation designer. I've worked everywhere from startups to advertising agencies to big tech companies. So I actually started my UX bootcamp several years ago, maybe about 6 years ago at this point, and it has literally been such a fulfilling experience to work with aspiring UX designers and helping them go from literally beginner to experienced in just 16 weeks. My students have landed jobs everywhere from Meta to Amazon Games to startups, and it is really one of the best pieces of the work that I get to do every day when I wake up. So let's go ahead and get into all things UX bootcamps. First of all, let's go ahead and start with what UX bootcamps actually are. UX bootcamps are accelerated programs that help you transition relatively quickly into a new field. These bootcamps are often very regimented, meaning that they give you the structure that you need to learn and give you all of the information and the content and the projects and what have you that you need to learn UX and to ultimately build your portfolio. But the main thing that a UX bootcamp should do for you is teach you how to problem solve. Problem solve, problem solve, problem solve. That is the best way that I can describe what it means to actually learn UX or learn how to become a UX designer. Hiring managers want to know how you think. So your UX bootcamp or whatever program or whatever method you actually choose to learn UX, it really should be pulling out of you how to think, how to solve problems. There's so many different ways to solve the same problem, and that's what you want to really get to. You want to start exercising that muscle around how to solve problems in different ways and come up with different outcomes. And your UX bootcamp should be helping you get there. Now, obviously, one of the big things that UX bootcamps help with is not only kind of accelerating that process, but also building your portfolio, which is ultimately what you are then going to need to get a job. The reason why UX bootcamps are kind of like a one-stop shop is because they really do everything for you. It's kind of like a done-for-you kind of solution. Obviously, you have to do the work, but everything is kind of handed to you. Sometimes there's mentorship. Sometimes there's outcomes that helps you after you actually graduate and finish the bootcamp. They should be helping with your portfolios. They should be helping with, obviously, you learning UX, but it really is a true one-stop shop, or at least it should be. Now, believe me, we're going to get all into UX bootcamps in just a second, but one of the things that I want to talk about is what getting a job as a UX designer actually looks like today. This is late 2024, we're heading into 2025, and it's really important to really understand where we are right now as an industry and where we're headed. And not only where we're headed, but what you can do to ensure that you are successful and that you ultimately transition into a UX role as smoothly as possible. So currently UX is a hot field. UX has always been a hot field, at least since I've been in it, but now I feel like more than ever, everyone is wanting to transition into UX. It is a great field. It is a mix between creative and tech, and it is just one of those fields that everyone wants to be a part of. With that being said, you have to make sure that you are separating yourself from the competition. If there was one piece of advice that I could give people who are, maybe looking for a job or maybe interested in a career in UX, but maybe aren't sure how to go about it or how they should be thinking, the first thing that I would tell you is that you have to figure out how you are going to differentiate yourself from the competition. One of the ways that you can do that, or one of the ways to start doing that, is to make sure that you have a wide range of skills. Now, this is very, 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 very important. One of the reasons why it's important to make sure that you have a very wide range of skills, and first of all, let's talk about what that wide range is. When you are a UX designer and you're just starting out, you're going to want to make sure that you are not just focusing on one part of UX, like maybe just the UX strategy or maybe just the overall design, but you want to make sure that you're diving into research as well. Same thing if you're interested in becoming a UX researcher. You still want to make sure that you know how to design a wireframe or that you know how to solve problems. One of the reasons why this is so important is because when you start applying for jobs, if you only look for the jobs where you feel comfortable, you're limiting yourself. I teach my students everything from research to final design, and this is the reason why. It is so competitive out here, and you want to make sure that you are putting your best foot forward. And honestly, knowing how to do everything from research to final design is literally just kind of the basics. Everybody really has to have that at this point. One of the other things that you're going to want to make sure that you are thinking about, especially once you actually land the job, is how you can start having an impact very quickly. Now, this is very important for two different reasons. One of the things that I teach my students is how to make an impact very quickly. Now, what does this mean? Making an impact very quickly means really thinking about what are your quick wins. So when you're starting on a new project, make sure that you are understanding what you're trying to solve and thinking about how you can start having an impact very quickly. This is also going to translate when you start going in front of hiring managers and you're talking about how you are actually delivering for the team, for the customers, and for yourself. And that is going to be in having impact very, very quickly. Knowing how to do that is what's going to separate you from other applicants. Now let's go ahead and jump right back into boot camps, because one of the things that I talked about earlier was how boot camps are effectively an acceleration of your learning experience. There are two questions that I want you to ask yourself when you're thinking about a career in UX. You know it's something that you want to do and you're serious about it. You're just not sure how to actually go about it. Those two questions are, what is your timeline and how do you learn best? Number one, what is your timeline is going to really give you a lot of information, because let's say that you say, I want to transition into a UX designer by the spring, and let's say it's November currently. That means that you only have about 4 months, 4 or 5 months to really buckle down and make sure that you are doing everything that you can to not only learn UX, learn how to solve problems, prove that through your case studies, and build a portfolio, and then kind of move on to your job search. But you want to make sure that you're doing that in a way that's going to match up with your timeline. So if you're somebody that says, okay, I want to, maybe go back to school and get, obtain a master's degree. Well, obviously that's not going to be within your 4-month timeline. So that kind of is going to, knowing that information and knowing how quickly you want to transition, knowing what your timeline is going to really help you in trying to understand, okay, what program is actually best for me. The second question around how do you learn best is also very important, because there's so many different ways to learn UX. There are so many options. There is self-study, there are courses, there are colleges and universities. Even within the course space, there are courses that are kind of go at it alone. There are courses that come with a mentor and someone to actually guide you. So knowing how you learn best is going to be key in trying to figure out what route you're going to take. So now let's get into the weeds about which course to take a little bit more. We've already answered actually two huge questions. How do you learn best and what is your timeline? We also want to talk about free courses versus paid courses. Now, I have a table that I'm going to put up on the screen that will kind of walk through exactly what I'm going to highlight here. But there are a couple of things that you should know about each option. Let's go ahead and let's start with free courses. I think that free courses are great if you are wanting to get your feet wet, really try to understand what UX is, what it entails, when you're trying to figure out, okay, is this something that I really want to do? I want to, actually take some sort of a course to kind of understand and get that knowledge. I think that free resources are really good for that. However, if we go back to the question around how do I learn best, or better yet, what is your timeline? If you're somebody who says, well, I actually want to take a free course before I invest in a paid course, and you want to transition within, 4 months or so, that is going to conflict a bit with your timeline. However, if you're someone that's like, you know what, I already know this is what I want to do, I've done my research, and I'm going to actually go into a paid course that's a bit more structured and has more benefits to it at the end of the day, and actually positions me really well to get a job, then that probably will be the route for you. And one of the things, just to be completely honest and completely transparent, as somebody who coaches aspiring UX designers every day, one of the things that I tend to see with people who have taken free courses is that they have taken free courses and they've kind of gotten stuck there. So one of the things that I hear a lot is, like we mentioned, I think earlier, one of the first questions is, I've taken a course, I have some knowledge, I may have a case study that is maybe incomplete or maybe complete, but I'm not really sure what to do next. Feeling stuck is a real emotion, especially when you're transitioning into a new field. It's a real emotion, and it's something that you want to overcome as quickly as you can. And the reason is because the more time that you give for doubt to set into your mind, and the more time that you have to kind of fester on, is this for me? Is this not for me? Why is this not happening? What do I do next? Those kinds of things are not really good when we're actually trying to do something like pivot into a new career, because, like I said, they just leave so much room for self-doubt and for you to feel stuck. Like I said, I think that free courses are great for concepts, but when it comes to actually digging in and really getting serious about making that transition and making it quickly, that's where I tend to see that they kind of fall short. So when you are looking for any course, there are several things that you want to think about. Obviously, we've already talked about a few, but here are a few others that I really want you to consider, because what actually happens inside of your UX bootcamp, or what doesn't happen, is going to have a direct reflect on how quickly you're hired and how confident you feel, as well as just your overall experience in terms of learning UX, building your portfolio, interviewing and things like that. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the few that I see as being some of the things that you'll really want to pay attention to. The first one is mentorship. And hands down, I will say that this is going to be the key to your success. Whenever you want to transition into any kind of new field or just learn how to do something, it is always a good idea to have someone there who is guiding you, who can give you the support, who can answer questions for you, who can course correct you, who can say things like, oh, the questions that you wrote for, this survey that you're putting out, these are good, but we can make them a lot better, and this is why. And they can actually walk you through each question that you've written, and they can help you rewrite it and restructure it in order to have a different outcome. That is very, 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 very important. You want to make sure that you are working with seasoned professionals, and not only seasoned professionals, but people that can help guide you and shape you into a UX designer that is going to be valuable for a UX team. So hands down, one-on-one mentorship is going to be your key when it comes to successfully transitioning into UX design. I can talk about mentorship all day and the pros of it, but it is definitely something that you're gonna wanna have. The next thing is projects with impact. Now, I actually retitled this because a lot of times one of the questions that I'm asked is, oh, I need projects, I need real world client projects. Real world client projects they're a good thing to have, don't get me wrong, because it gives you the opportunity to work with a client. However, one of the things that I feel is more valuable than that is the type of project that you're working on, is the type of problem that you're actually solving. A lot of times you can actually go work with a client and maybe it's not exactly as impactful for you as an aspiring UX designer. It's not sharpening your skills quite enough in order to make that project impactful. Impactful for not only the customer or the user on the other end, but impactful for you. Is this a project that you are learning from? Is this a project that you are gaining a skill set from that is going to be valuable to other UX teams? So that's why I retitled this to Projects with Impact, because in my opinion, the most important thing, and this is what we do in our 16-week bootcamp, is we make sure that the projects that you are working on have impact and that you are focused on solving a problem that UX designers are currently working on. There's a problem, a UX related problem that is facing the industry right now that people are trying to work through and actively solve for. That is very, very important. So more than the client projects, and again, client projects are great, but you're gonna wanna make sure that your projects have impact, because that is what you're gonna be talking about in that UX interview. The next is personalized job strategy. Now, the reason that this is very important is because one of the things that I always say is that your job search does not start when you see a job that you like to apply for and you click the apply button. The job search strategy should start way before that. And that is something that we teach day one, week one in the 16-week bootcamp. It's not something that's really honed in a lot on in a lot of the free courses, because in the free courses, they're really focused on kind of like to understand concepts and, maybe to start getting some feedback, but they're not really focused on the outcomes a lot of the times. And that is going to be part of your bread and butter. You're there to get a job. So you want to make sure that, you want to ask the questions about like, what kind of support do you offer, when I'm looking for a job or post-grad and, things like that. But again, your job search should not start when you click that apply button. The next is in-depth Figma training. Now, I know that there are various design tools out there. However, one of the industry standards is Figma. It is the tool that everyone is just using. It is literally the tool to use if you are in UX. Yes, there are other tools that you can use like Sketch and Adobe XD and so on and so forth, but Figma is going to be one of the main tools that is used right now. But you can really swap out Figma with any other tool and this will still apply. You want to make sure that wherever it is that you are taking a course, that you are getting in-depth training on how to use that program. This is going to be not only very important just in terms of you knowing how to use the tool, but it's also going to be very important because you want to make sure that you are separating learning how to use the tool and learning UX. And that is something that I've realized is very important, and we've actually separated the two in our course. So there is in-depth Figma training so that you can learn how to actually use the tool. You can get confident with it. You can start doing all kinds of really cool things. And then you'll actually start to learn UX. Our course is structured a little bit differently. And one of the things that this does is it increases big time the confidence level of our students, because they're actually seeing their designs coming to life, and they're actually doing one of the things that we talked about earlier, which is having some very quick wins early in the process. That all boosts your self-esteem, your confidence level. It lowers things like imposter syndrome for you so that you are feeling like you are actually a UX designer. You are actually creating something. You are working towards something. You are recreating something. Whatever it is that you're doing, you are having some success really quickly. And this is one of the things that our students have loved is this in-depth Figma training. So the next is a custom UX curriculum. And essentially what that means is a curriculum that changes often. The UX world, the tech world, the creative world, it is changing every single day. It changes so fast that sometimes we can't really see it until the big changes kind of hit us and the new programs come and the new this comes and then the new that comes and we have to pay attention to this now and now we're looking at that. Well, we have to keep updating our curriculum to make sure that we are arming our students with anything that they're going to face in the industry or anything, any problems that they're going to come in contact with or any new tools or what have you. We want to make sure that we are doing that. And this is one of the ways that we do this. So one of the things that you want to make sure is that the curriculum is always being updated and that it is always within the context of what is happening in the UX industry at that time. And then the last, I kind of talked about this already, but post-grad support, super important. I'm sure you probably know why that is very important. But after you finish a course, it is probably said that you might have a portfolio if that is kind of what their promise is. You also want to understand, how do you support me after this? That's super important. Most students will finish their UX program, they'll have a portfolio, but that's really when the job searching actually starts. Or maybe they're still working on their portfolio a little bit and then they'll start their job search within a few weeks or so. You want to make sure that you have support. This is just as important of a part of the process as when you actually started learning UX. You want to make sure that you have someone to talk to when you get feedback on an interview or from an interview or on your portfolio updates. You want to make sure that you have someone to go to. And this is why the post-grad support and also the mentorship is very, very important. So in Empathive, what we do is we provide all of those things. All of those things have been extremely successful and extremely instrumental in helping our students land jobs successfully, quickly, and yes, in this job market. It is entirely possible, but the thing you have to make sure is that you are setting yourself up for success at the onset so that you don't have to kind of try to make up for it after the fact. So now let's get into this idea of investing in a UX bootcamp. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about free resources or free courses versus paid courses or courses where you are going to make an investment into your career. Now, I know that in today's kind of UX industry and kind of when we're thinking about getting into the industry, I know that there's a lot of emphasis around free resources. And I think that I've kind of laid out the differences between the two. But when you are thinking about an investment into your career, an investment into yourself, you really want to ask yourself all of the things that we've talked about. There is a huge advantage for investing in your career. Obviously, we've kind of laid out the differences between the different types of courses here. We talked a little bit about them earlier, but one of the things to kind of keep in the back of your mind is that yes, you are transitioning into a new field, and a lot of times there is an investment that is needed to make that transition successfully. Remember, we talked about it can take you 3 years to transition into UX, or it can take you 4 or 5 months. You don't want to be on the, it took me 3 years, it took me 2 years, unless, that was at your own will. But if you are someone who is serious about transitioning and serious about wanting a new, a salary bump and wanting to kind of, exponentially grow in your career and see that growth year over year and see that not only just in your title changes or just what you've learned, but also see that reflected back into your salary, a lot of that starts with how you start and how you kind of start out with learning UX. I have a graphic here that I pulled from our website, and one of the things that it really just kind of highlights is just the salary for junior UX designers all over the world, just to kind of give you an idea. And I think that it's really important just to kind of get a look at, because sometimes people don't really know. And I think that it's just an interesting artifact, because what it kind of spells out is around where you'll be starting as a UX designer. And feel free to go to, all the websites where they talk about pay for junior UX designers and put in your city and your state or your country, and they will give you data that more so is relevant to you and where you are. But this is just something that I like to share because a lot of times when we think about investing in a course, we're not thinking about how that investment is going to pay off. We're just thinking about the right now. So something to think about, again, if you're looking for acceleration and you're looking for all of the things that we kind of mentioned and benefits for learning UX, with a course that is paid and not free, it's definitely something to take a look at. Since I am in this space and I come across a lot of comments around UX bootcamps and courses in general, I pulled a few comments from a free course and I just want to share them with you guys. And the reason why I just wanted to share these is because I feel like it really speaks to what happens when you're done with the free course. So once the free course is over, what are you left with? What do you have? Where are you still struggling? Where are the areas of opportunity for you? And I feel like these comments really speak to it. Anytime you have someone saying that they feel like this course really doesn't prepare you is a automatic red flag. And again, this is because a lot of the free courses are meant to be kind of like starter or for someone who's kind of dibbling dabbling. Believe it or not, there are some people that literally like to take courses. They'll take courses on cybersecurity, on UX, on coding. They just want to know more. And that's what these courses are really good for. Getting your feet wet, really just trying to understand. But if you are someone who is serious and someone who wants to accelerate your career, I would definitely think twice when diving into a lot of these free courses. Another thing that you may not necessarily think about when you're thinking about how to get into UX, but you should be thinking about is a course that will help you not only get the job, but keep the job. So what do I mean by that? Obviously, getting the job is very important. We want to learn. We want to make sure that our skills are represented in our portfolio. But we also want to make sure that the course that we're taking is going to prepare us for keeping the job. So what does it mean to actually keep the job? But you want to make sure that the class that you're taking is actually going to prepare you to keep the job. So things like how to work with your business partners, how to work with stakeholders, how to handle conflict if conflict arises on the job, things to expect during your first year on the job. Those things are very, very important. And that's also why it's good to have a mentor, someone to be able to ask these questions to once you actually start in your first role. But it's also really nice to have a curriculum that reflects it so that you can refer back to all of that once you actually start your role. That is very, very important. And it's something that isn't talked a lot about when we're talking about getting into UX, but it should be. This is what we call future-proofing your UX career. Another question that's often asked is, what skills do I need to come into UX with in order to be successful? And the answer to that is you want to come into UX with your soft skills. Now, what are soft skills? Soft skills are skills that you have from other experiences or jobs that you've had previously. So things like communication, things like how to actually correspond with someone via email, which also could be considered communication, but I feel like communication really spans a pretty large gamut. Things like having empathy for other people, which are going to be the actual users that you're going to be solving for. Things like collaboration, how well you collaborate with other people, be it your team members or stakeholders. All of these things are really, really important when it comes to UX, and these are transferable skills. These can be used across other industries and other roles, but they are very, very important when it comes to UX. So one thing that you might want to do is just to take a self-assessment of your soft skills, maybe get a list of soft skills and see which ones that you think you are really good at, which ones you might need some work at, and then you can work through those as you are learning UX at the same time. As we close on this topic, I just want to encourage all of you out there who are inspiring UX designers that you are indeed in the right place. UX is such a fun field. I've had a great time as a UX designer. I had a great time as a designer in general, but I really enjoy UX. I enjoy the problem solving. It really makes me feel like I have purpose, especially when I see my solutions out there and they're working for people and they're making people's lives easier or better. That is really a win for me personally. But if this is a field that you are interested in, I wish you all of the luck and all of the success in it. If you would like to see what all we do at Empathive, I'm going to leave the link to our website where you can go ahead and download the syllabus and get a feel for everything that you're going to be learning and just all of the really cool things that we do inside the course to prepare you to not only get the job, but keep the job. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I am here as a resource to you. I'm so glad that you found this video. I'm so glad that you're interested in UX. It is a great field, and I know that it will be one that you will be so glad that you made the switch into. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do so, and I will see you guys in the next video.